What was San Francisco doing that maybe disrupted what the offensive line what was trying to do in this game? Because the offensive line has been pretty good the last couple of games, but it seems like in this one it was some protection issues.
Sure. Yeah, it was a collection of everything. I think, from a run game standpoint, it wasn't as clean, obviously, as we had been having the previous weeks. So got some of those things cleaned up just from an identification standpoint and targeting standpoint so we can get the right bodies on the right bodies and ultimately get those plays off the ground. But
so I want to start the video by showing y'all that clip to kind of preface what I was going to talk about in this video. So y'all heard Zac Robinson say, from identification things, he had to clean some things up and, get some things straight. And so this morning, when I saw that last night, I was like, I'm going to look at it in the morning, where I went through all of the run plays, specifically the ones that went for negative or little to no gain. And then I actually agree with him. It was just like some things that I would say were out of his control that he really couldn't, control. But at the same time, it kind of, you kind of fix that. And it's more of a nuanced conversation to have when we're talking about the system that he runs and the system that he comes from. But, I don't want people to look at me like I'm just blindly defending him, because I'm getting some of those comments from time to time whenever I'm talking about the offense. Well, no, if you watch and understand football, it's not just on the coaches. It's sometimes the players. It's sometimes the defense just has a good game plan or they win a rep. Hell, I think I'm one of the few people that said earlier in the summer that Zac Robinson, his main thing is he's predictable. I made a video about it and a lot of people watched it, but yet some people think I'm just blindly defending him for some odd reason, and I'm not. I'm trying to stay objective. Some things are his fault, some things are not, but I'm not going to put everything on him if something goes wrong. Mike isn't perfect. Kyle isn't perfect. Drake isn't perfect. Bijan isn't perfect. The offensive linemen, they aren't perfect. That's why I have this platform, because I want to go over everything and, show you, okay, some things may be the players, but some things may be Zac Robinson. If, overall you had to deviate blame, I'd probably say 60% of it is Zac Robinson. But, that big 40% is definitely execution, because even though it may seem predictable, execution beats that all the time. So without further ado, I want to show y'all 4 different clips of what, he's talking about. And I'm going to offer my insight. I'm not saying I know everything, but I'm going to just take y'all through my thought process. And we're going to really show y'all what actually happened, what he means from an identification standpoint. So let's go and get into it. Let's roll the film. All right, so here's the first play I want to look at. It is a duo run. So what we're going to have here, Drake London's going to come in from off the screen to the left, and he's going to motion in and do that insert block that everybody's been doing recently. And he's going to go to the second level. You're going to get a double team right here. You're going to get a double team right here, okay? And you're trying to work up to the second level defenders. Also, you're going to get this guy blocking out. You're going to get this guy blocking out, right? And then what goes wrong right here is you're going to have Casey Washington, who's supposed to go get this safety, right? And the reason why this becomes an issue is if you look at the front, you see that they have a tight end. We have a tight end line right here on the line of scrimmage, right? So they're going to set the front away from him. No, my fault. I'm imperfect. They set the front to him, okay, which means they have a 3 technique to his side, which means they're going to close the B gap bubble, okay? Now, the B gap bubble is right here, and we're probably trying to hit behind this, okay? And y'all going to see in a minute what I'm talking about, because you're going to see that the mesh is kind of iffy, right? But there's also a C gap bubble right here that, not a lot of people talk about, because, the C gap is uncovered. But what they're going to do to alleviate that is they're going to have this safety walk down post snap and fill that hole, okay? And that's going to make this block for Casey Washington hard, because he has to come at a tighter angle. He has to get through this guy right here, and he's going to end up falling and knocking him over. But y'all going to see what I'm talking about also with the whole QB running back mesh point. So look, we see the duo run. He's going to motion in Drake London. Usually I would assume that, usually when I see the insert blocks, we're going to be going towards the insert block, okay? Not away from, because Bijan goes away, right? And if you also look at the body language of Mike, he's turning this way kind of casually, but then he just kind of pivots and, oh shit, I got to get it over there. So maybe it went wrong right there. Maybe it didn't, but if it did go wrong right here, you can see why, because, once again, you have Drake London, who's insert blocking right here. Usually you run behind that, okay? But also, if we just play it through and we look at Casey Washington, once again, you're going to see, if we just back it up just a little bit more, you're going to see what I'm talking about, where he has to go get that safety, and that safety's coming out into the box, into that C gap late, and he has to get through the defensive end, and he's going to just kind of lunge at him and miss. And we get minimal to no gain. But as you can see, this is more of like an execution thing where maybe it was this going on right here where this guy went the wrong way, he's turning this way. Maybe it was like this on purpose, right? Where he's supposed to pivot the other way, then come back around. Maybe it was like that. But there's also a chance that, hey, we're hidden behind this because, like I said, you usually run behind these insert blocks when you're running duo, okay? But then there's also the element of, okay, we're supposed to go get this safety, but we have a hard, job to do because once again, he's coming down into the box fast. He's feeling fast, and that's going to make our job harder, especially when I got to get through him. So this is like a good defense thing. I'm not sure what it is right here because maybe it was by design that we turn and go this way. It also could be a possibility where, we're supposed to go this way. Bijan just went the wrong way, okay? So we don't know. If it's that muddy, then you're really not sure like what's going on. And then here's a good example from Wise on Warriors on YouTube of what this is supposed to look like. But usually, once again, when we run duo, we're running behind this insert block, okay? Because look at this. You're going to see he's running right behind the insert block, okay? That's usually how it works. That's why my rationale is like maybe Bijan went the wrong way, right? That's, just want to put that out there. All right, so this next one right here, we have something called toss crack where you're going to get a crack block by Kyle. He's going to crack the end man on line of scrimmage. Pause. The right tackle, Elijah Wilkinson, he's going to wrap around. And he's pretty much going to be the lead blocker. They're going to motion in Drake London, and he's going to go get this guy. I'm not really sure he's supposed to, in my opinion. I think he would rather go get this guy, right? Because Darnell Mooney's going to go get this corner. And in theory, why I would say, he needs to go get the overhang right here is because then it becomes a one-on-one with a tackle and a safety who's going to be filling from depth right here, okay? He's going to be one-on-one with the safety, okay? And I like an offensive tackle on a safety, right? But we're going to see what actually ends up happening is that right here, we're going to motion in Drake London. We're going to see what I'm talking about where he goes to get the linebacker, okay? Usually, in my opinion, when you do these toss cracks, you don't get that because now you have a guy that's running free, okay? Maybe this is like by design that we go get this guy right here for Drake and we want to have this guy pull around and go get the nickel. Maybe that's what we want to do. But, you have a guy right over him, okay? You probably, I don't know. It's hard to rationale with it because you do have better leverage when you do this. You can crack him down, but it's just like, it just kind of, I don't know, man. It doesn't make sense for Drake to go get the overhang or to go get the linebacker when he can go get the overhang because he's a good enough blocker himself. He doesn't need leverage to be created for him, okay? But once you see the crack block right here, you're going to get a wraparound. He's going to go get the and you see what I'm talking about where all he has to do is go get the safety because Chris Lindstrom is more than athletic enough to go get this guy right here, okay? And you see Bijan's going to run behind it right off the toss action. And once again, it's going to be like a free blocker for a filling safety coming down, okay? And even if it was designed like to where we're supposed to, hey, you go get this guy, and we're gonna wrap you around for this guy right here. My fault. Even if it was designed like that, okay, it's still an execution thing, but you're gonna see why, right? We're gonna get this toss crack. Now let's say once again, Drake is supposed to go get this linebacker, and we want Elijah Wilkinson to go get this nickel. Okay, let's say that is the case, right? Bijan cuts the wrong way. Okay, he cuts into traffic. Now the reason why I say that is because when you're teaching running backs, I'm a running back coach. The way I teach my boys is you always cut opposite of leverage, okay, right? So you see, I've taught y'all this before where depending on what side you see his helmet on, you're going to cut the opposite, right? So if we split Elijah Wilkinson in half, right, what side is this defender on? He's on this side of his body. You will cut opposite of that. Conversely, even if you don't see that, right, well, from this angle, you see that there is a lane, right, like they have the edge right here. And it's going to be a big alley right here with you and the safety. I like Bijan against the safety, okay? You see that you would probably want him to keep pressing outside and get the edge right here because Darnell Mooney has a solid block. Drake has a solid block on the edge. And all you had to do was just kind of keep leveraging Elijah Wilkinson to run into his blocker. That way I can just keep going to the edge. But you see, you look like this is perfect stuff. He was perfect up until here, right? You put your arm on the blocker so you can kind of I wouldn't say direct him, but kind of ride him to where you want to go, get as many yards as possible. And you see once he takes them on right here, then you can go. Okay, and he said he just has his arm and he's going to cut inside where the backside pursuit is. You don't want to necessarily cut to where the pursuit is coming from, right? You want to keep getting to the edge in this situation because you really will want to, right? But if it was if it was bad blocking, as far as like guys are not blocking the right people, then I understand it. But then if it was supposed to be blocked like that, then I would say it's more on Bijan for, cutting inside instead of cutting or, continuing to press outside on an outside hit and run, right? Because sometimes you can cut back prematurely, but it just depends on if it was either or. Because once again, if it was a bad blocking design, then that's on Zac. But once again, I was like, if it's a bad, blocking assignment thing where guys just miss their assignment, then that's on Drake. But if it was designed like this on purpose, it's more on Bijan for cutting inside and being, a little bit impatient on that one. Okay, Zac, this is a decent run concept to, throw off guys, not necessarily zone. So hey, I don't know, man. Now, the last two, I'm almost sure that it was just like an identification thing, because if we look at what's happening here, we're going to have Charlie Warner do his escort motion, and he's going to go block this guy right here. The only problem is Kyle's going to double team this guy right here with Jake Matthews. He's going to go block the same person. You don't want two people blocking this guy right here, okay? And usually the way that, if you look at it from the past where Charlie Warner's done this little escort motion, sometimes he would go through the hole and he would seal somebody out right here because there's already a blocker out here for, that. Okay. And the reason why I want to show y'all this one in particular is because the way some of these zone runs are like, taught, they're taught like with a 0 or a -1 or a +1 right here. Okay. And so I think, in my opinion, this might be what they're doing here. This might be the 0, this might be -1, because you're trying to get this main guy right here first, right? And I think he's supposed to go get in what's supposed to be the mic, right? And then Kyle will go get the safety. He go gets this guy right here. Maybe that's what's supposed to happen, and Kyle just went to go get the wrong person. But either way, you don't need two people blocking a second level defender, right? Because once he motions over, you're going to see what I'm talking about, how this is execution and or identification. Either way, it's the same thing, right? You're going to see he's going to motion them over. They're going to get the double team right here, and then we're going to get two guys on one person, right? Now, if you see what I'm talking about, you would much rather Charlie Warner go get him, and then Kyle gets him, and Bijan has a lane to run through, and then it's a one-on-one with the safety, okay? That's ideal. Okay, so maybe there was some kind of communication issue during the week where it's like they really didn't hash out, okay, Kyle, do you want to go get him, or do you want me to come and get him, or do you want to go get him and I go get him, or I go get this guy, you stay there. Like, it's just a communication thing. It's nothing like major right here, right? It's just the fine details. And like Zac said, he kind of cleaned this up during the week, so I'm not saying this is just like a dire issue. It's just one of those things where if you mess up the fine details, you can go from a big run to no gain just like that, okay? So once again, you look at what I'm talking about. They're going to go block two people for some reason, and you get a 2-yard gain out of it. And, man, I wish we had some of these runs back, because if we just blocked them correctly, these are explosive runs easily, right? I don't really think San Francisco did like that well defend the run. We just kind of messed up some identification things, aka IDing the mic. And this also may go back to Zac Robinson and his whole thing where it's like in his system, when you look at the run plays, the mic is already predetermined in a sense. So this may be the mic right here, or maybe this might be the mic right here, but either way, the play call is already baked into like, okay, who do we want to identify as the mic? Who do we want to go block to? Okay, and it's one of these guys right here, because the mic is not always the middle linebacker, okay, for the offense. The offense is identifying the mic for who do we want to account for, or who do we want to block to, or who do we want to slot to in pass protection, okay? It's not the middle backer. Hell, he could walk down and he could become the mic, okay? But that's for passing the ball, right? But either way, I think there needs to be some kind of thing where it's just like, okay, now we see there's a 4-2 box right where you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, but this guy's inside. It's making it a 4-3 now, okay? So now it needs to be some kind of, okay, we need to re-ID the mic. Let's ID him as the mic first. That way Kyle can know, okay, I got to go get him. Charlie Warner has to come around and go get him and seal him out, right? Then it's going to be still on the alley for Bijan to run through. And he got to just make the safety miss, and that's curtains, bro. That's it. All right, I got to move the camera down to the left just for this last one, okay? But this is like one that I'm really telling y'all, like, the identification stuff really matters, because sometimes the number or, the hat count can change, or, it changes the count of certain things, right? So you're going to see we're initially in shotgun. We have Kyle and the Y off right here. But let's look at the front real quick, okay? Because I need y'all to understand what this is. This is a reduction, which means you're going to have both defensive tackles over the guards, right? Usually you would have this guy being a 3 technique right over here in between the guard and the tackle, but no. Robert Saleh said we're going to do a reduction. We're going to open up both B gaps right here, because the B gap is right here, B gap is right there. We're going to open both of those up, and we're going to have our linebackers close those, okay? And so when we watch this play through just a little bit, okay, let me back up real quick. Let me just go ahead and get Bijan in the picture right, because he's going to motion in and create it. So let's go ahead and ignore him real quick, okay? Let's ignore him. Let's say he's not even in the picture. If we're going to be running this way, which we end up running this way, the count will be 0 to -1, which means Charlie Warner is supposed to go get -1, because you're going to have these two guys combo up to go get 0, right? Because once again, you need to go block him, right? And you want Charlie Warner to go fall back into that gap and go get him. That's exactly what we want to do, but that's not what happens. They're going to counter this motion and bring a guy in, which is going to change the numbering count, which means now it needs to be 0, -1, -2. Okay, that's what it needs to be now, because now you want Charlie Warner to go get this guy. You want Matthew Bergeron, they're still going to combo up over here. Bergeron's going to go get 0 still, because it's still an outside hit and run. And then you're going to have these guys do their whole thing right here, right? And he's going to block that right here. Cool. That's how the run should be blocked up. But one thing I will say about Zac, because this one is actually his fault, whenever we do this motion where we insert Bijan back into the backfield, we almost always just hike the ball. There's no, let me make sure the formation is straight, then I call the play. We motion them in, and then we just get to the play, right? There's no chance to re-ID the mic. There's no chance to make sure everything's clear between the line and, the guys that are supposed to be blocking. So look, once again, bringing number 27 in changes the count for the offensive lineman. Matthew Bergeron picks up on it. Charlie Warner doesn't, okay? So let's see what I'm talking about right here, where you see he's going to go get number 48 already, right? Now remember, when we look at, how he's used, you would prefer him to go get this guy right here, because he's most dangerous after that. He's not most dangerous at all, because Matthew Bergeron's going to go get him. You're going to be running right behind him. You want Charlie Warner to go insert and go get this guy. You don't want him to fall back and go get him and leave this guy unaccounted for. You don't want that to happen. Like right here, there needs to be a re-identification of the mic. Either Mike needs to see that, or Ryan needs to see it. They need to be like, okay, Mike 27 now. Okay, so now he's 0, right? Now this is -1, this is -2. Once again, Charlie knows I got to go get -1. So we're going to watch this combo right here. I'm going to follow behind this combo. I'm going to fall out and then go get him. That's all that's a simple check that fixes a run stuff into a good run game. Okay, because look at this. Look at this, man. Look at this. So look, once again, he's falling back into a gap he has no business being in. You don't want Ryan Neuzil to come off of that, because now a defensive tackle is unaccounted for, right? So you see, once again, Matthew Bergeron does the right thing, but Charlie Warner doesn't, because there's no identification process of fixing this, okay? Now, Jake Matthews does get beat right here, okay? That happens, but still, if this was a little bit clearer for Bijan, the more clarity, he's probably hitting this hole a little bit faster, and we got a big run out of that. So it's just like, some of this is on Zac, some of it is on the players. Once again, it's not just Zac, it's both. And once again, y'all, I don't want y'all to act like I'm just blindly defending Zac, because I have my fair share of criticisms. Like I said before, like I made a video about the man saying, like, man, you're too predictable. You need to mix it up or something. And you all are seeing that he's still predictable, okay? I've never necessarily been his main defender, but I've necessarily just made it a point to just go out and hate on him, because once again, I know too much to just simply simplify it to where, oh, it's just Zac Robinson's fault. No, it's not just Zac's fault. Some of this is on Mike because he's a growing quarterback. Some of this is on the offense in general because they're not executing. They're human. They're not perfect. Okay, I'm not gonna say this is all Zac's fault. It's not all Mike's fault. It's not all the offense's fault. It's a mix of everybody. So everybody got to get on the right page, because once again, like, we're not a bad offense. We can move the ball with the best of them. We just have to finish drives, and stuff like that is why we don't finish drives, where we're just not on the same page. So that's my whole thing I want to talk about today. So if y'all enjoyed it, be sure to like, subscribe for more. See you guys in the next video. I mess with the do-rag, man. But hey, I'll see y'all later. Fuck, I can't talk. I'll see y'all later in the next video. Goodbye.